Just when we thought we've heard it all.
A mom charged with killing 2 of her kids.
Mother charged with killing her 2 children and stuffing their bodies in a freezer.
Hey guys, what's going on? It's Beezy, and this is Strange Fruit. So, most cases that I dive into normally have a beginning, middle, and an end. How the shit started, when did it pop off, and what happened after. The case that I'm about to tell y'all about doesn't have much of a background, but the unspeakable acts that occurred and the jazz that she said in court had me so shooketh, I never forgot about it. I just felt the need to share it all with you, and away we go. So regarding any background, I'm going to tell y'all about a woman named Mitchelle Angela Blair. She was born on May 10th, 1979. There's no real documentaries or hard facts when it comes to her childhood, but when she spoke in court, a few details came out and it shined a little light on things. From what I'm gathering, she was raised by her mother, who would physically beat her and mentally check out. Apparently, at a young age, she was getting sexually abused by a friend of her mother's. She finally got the courage to tell her mother, who could have cared less, as you'll see here.
Can you talk me through the type of abuse that you had to suffer as a kid?
You mean sexual abuse?
If that's what happened?
That definitely did happen to me. That's why I know exactly how would have grew up. I told my mother what happened to me, and the only thing she said was, "It's over with, so what the you want me to do about it?" What do you mean what I want you to do? You get what I'm saying? So all I could do is go back and sit in my room and just sit there and look stupid. I'm a kid, and I'm just telling you what happened to me. You didn't do about it. And plus, I still had to see the person coming in and out my house. You still friends with that person. If that's one thing I definitely would have killed over, it would have always been that.
Now, I just want to take a moment to say, fuck this interviewer. If that's what happened, I'm not trying to play devil's advocate, but if you were a helpless child and actually did go through something severely emotionally and physically traumatic, just for your mom to say, "It's over now, what you want me to do about it?" And now you got this trash, if that's what happened. I don't know about her, but I would be triggered as the fuck. Like, here's just another person downplaying your pain.
I even tried to talk to my mom when I got in my mid-20s. She had strokes and things like that, and I'm like, "Mom, she could barely talk. You could barely talk." She had so many strokes, and I'm telling you what my problem was always with you. The hitting and all that. I just asked you to do something. The person lives around the corner on this particular time, it was just a woman named She lived around the corner. She want to walk around like she big and bad all day. My mama, you big and bad, everybody's scared of you. But when I come to you with some real and I tell you what happened to me, you didn't walk your around that corner and do to that woman like a coward. I always made sure I told my kids this. I told them what happened to me, how it happened to me, how the made me feel in detail. And I say, if anybody ever touches y'all, you better tell me. Even when my son was talking to me about some of the stuff, he would go like this to his face. And he was like, "Mom," and it felt so nasty. And that right there, I knew exactly what he was doing. I knew how he was feeling because that's how I used to feel.
I feel like she's a poster child for what repercussions can happen after suffering a severe crisis. And then, after knowing all this shit, her mom chooses to still be friends with this person. So I'm sure they're still coming over, hanging out at their place. Every time she's seeing this person, she's reliving these events, causing even more mental agony. All this cut her so deep it never left her and stemmed lifelong shell shock. She grew into an adult raising 4 children in an apartment in Detroit. All right, so let's talk about the kids. Her oldest child was a daughter named Gabrielle. Then there was Stoney, who was 3 years younger. Both of them from the same guy. Okay, you got that? Then there was Steven, who was 3 years older than the baby Matthew. Both from another guy. Okay? Now let me give you a timeline of this shit. In 2002, someone called CPS saying both girls had burns on their hands, but nothing ever came of it. In 2005, CPS was called again by the girl's father, saying that when his sister went to bathe the girls, there was marks on their backs, which he said looked like healed slashes. Yet nothing ever happened and the kids weren't removed. In 2006, Mitchelle said that she heard rumors the girl's grandfather on their dad's side was a whole-ass child molester. And not only would he sleep over on the same nights as the girls would, he was sleeping on the floor of the girl's room. Hell no. After that, she was like, nope, never going there again. But you can come see your kids anytime you want. If something did happen to the girls, they would have been about 7 and 10 at the time. In 2012, that was the last time either father heard from their kids. And that same year, the oldest daughter, Gabrielle, said that the baby, Matthew, I'm just going to call him the baby because there's too many people involved, was doing some questionable things with his dolls. So she went to talk to him like, baby, where you learned that from? Is somebody doing this to you? And he said, yeah, his older brother Steven did. And you know, this is the moment the tick started. Well, it was always there, but this really opened the can of worms and them motherfuckers bite. This would be about the time that she started beating the hell out of Steven, basically trying to physically inflict the pain that he mentally did to the baby. The youngest told his mom Steven pushed his face into the plastic of the mattress and got on top of him, making it hard to breathe. So she put a plastic bag over Steven's head until he was unconscious to see if he liked it. The baby also said that Steven tied some things around his neck to hold him still while he was raping him. And she said she seen the marks around the baby's neck, so she know he wasn't lying. She was like, all right, motherfucker. And she tied a belt around Steven's neck, lifted his ass off the floor until he passed out. The baby also said Steven put his penis in his eyes, ears, nose, and mouth. He said Steven peed into his eyes and would urinate on him every morning, making Mitchelle think that he had a bedwetting problem.
And back in my head and thought back to all the many things that was wrong with you over the years. And I'm like, that's what was wrong with you? He'll use the bathroom and say, Mom, my butt hurts when I poop. I don't know. So I started giving him 100% juice to make his stool softer, maybe to help him use the bathroom. That wasn't the problem. It wasn't his stool. It was that he was being raped. I thought he in the bed. My son was never a bedwetter. Didn't know it was Steven waking up every morning pissing on like he was a damn piece of shit, okay? They had bunk beds. Steven would get out the bed in the middle of the night. You would rape him in his own bed. You would pee on him instead of going to the bathroom. I'm waking up every morning thinking he was a bedwetter. So we just wash him up and go, you a bedwetter.
Let's talk about what you did to Steven.
The reason I put bags over Steven's head is because my son told me that the plastic on his bed, because I thought he was a bedwetter, he said, sometimes, Mom, I couldn't breathe. Steven was laying on me, and he had my face down in the plastic on the bed. I couldn't breathe, and he was humping on my butt like a basketball. That's when I got a garbage bag and started putting it over Steven's head. And I started asking him, bitch, you know what I'm saying? You see what this feel like? You can't breathe? You stopping my... That's my son.
In court, she said if she had to do it again, she would. Steven was punched and kicked frequently. She burned his genitals with scalding hot water multiple times, so there were burn marks on his stomach, his back, his butt. She made him drink Windex, starved him, burned him with cigarettes. You get the point.
In our bathroom, the hot water gets extremely hot. So, his private area, I stood him in the bathtub naked. You my son with your, you know? So yes, I threw hot water in his genital area multiple times. Every time Steven peed in my son's eyes. He put his in his ears, his nose. He peed. Even told me one time, Mom, and in my eyes it was gooey, but it wasn't pee. And then right then, it was like, I didn't even know a 9-year-old could ejaculate. You get what I'm saying? So not only did you do that, you did it in my son's eyes.
Did you also make him drink Windex?
Yes, I did, because told me in the middle of the night he had took him in the basement and he made him drink the blue stuff from under the sink. And I'm like, what blue stuff? So I walked downstairs, he showed me what I said, you made drink Windex. And then I went back to like years before, and I'm like, is this what was wrong with him? I thought he had the stomach flu, where you vomit and have diarrhea. You get what, at the same time? At that time, this is what was going around. A lot of people had it, so this is what I thought had. He didn't. Steven made him drink Windex.
After about 2 weeks of torture, Stephen ended up dying at 9 years old. She wrapped him up in his favorite blanket and put him in the freezer. His official cause of death was blunt force trauma to the head. She said she didn't mean to kill him, she just wanted to teach him a lesson. Realizing what she did, she told the baby she was going to have to call the cops and turn herself in. But he begged her not to leave him. And she's thinking, you've been through enough, I'll stick it out with you. So that's how Stephen's ass ended up in the freezer. And it was clear her past trauma has definitely caught up with her. She straight up told her kids, this is the worst thing you can do to somebody. And Stoney's punishment seemed to be even worse. In 2013, she removed the kids from public school so things wouldn't be as traceable regarding any violence that was occurring. A few months later, she finds out that Stoney had been raping Stephen and the baby the whole time. It came out when the baby told Mitchelle he was forced to watch Stoney and Stephen do nasty things together, and he was getting raped by both of them. He also said she would squeeze the blood out of her menstrual pad, put it in his mouth, and sit on his face. After this, Mitchelle was probably like, Stoney was punched and kicked frequently. She also got a plastic bag on her head, threw scalding hot water on her, had arm fractures, the whole nine. She was fed 1 meal a day, I think it was oatmeal, and burned on the back with a clothing iron. Stoney said she hated all her siblings, but especially the baby, because everyone thought he was so cute. Mitchelle felt that none of this shit would have ever happened if Stoney wouldn't have instigated it, forcing acts on both brothers. So you know she punished her ass even more than Stephen.
My son told me how she used to sit on his face, and he said, Mom, it stinks real bad. I always told my kids, the worst thing you can ever do to somebody is rape them. I always told my son that, and I always told the girls, the worst thing you could do is cry rape on somebody if they didn't rape you. My son ran out and grabbed my hand. He was 6, and he was doing like this, trying to wake me up. Stephen was grabbing him back by the back of his shirt, pulling me, and I said, why didn't you just scream out? He said, I don't know. You get what I'm saying? He even had my hand pulling on me, trying to wake me up. And since I'm a hard sleeper, I didn't wake up. So to hear my son say that to me is real up that shit happened. I don't regret none of this. I don't regret any of it. It's my son. That's my baby. There's no way that his brother and sister should know what he feels like inside. There's no way.
In about 2 weeks' time, she also died. She had a plastic bag on her head and was beat repeatedly with a wooden stick. The official cause of death was also blunt force trauma to the head. Mitchelle then asked her oldest daughter, Gabrielle, to help put her sister's naked body with just a scarf around her neck in the freezer on top her brother. So anyway, about 2 years later, she was getting evicted because she couldn't pay rent. Well, the cops showed up and ended coming across the freezer. It took investigators 2 whole ass days to thaw the bodies before they can even investigate them. And the cops were like, damn, why didn't you just turn yourself in finally? And she was like, look, if I ain't gonna turn myself in over Stephen, I for damn sure ain't gonna turn myself in over her. Because remember, she figured she was the whole ringleader of all this bullshit. She was found in a neighbor's apartment with her other 2 kids. She quickly confessed and was arrested. So, you gotta sit back and wonder, like, why didn't you just call the cops? She says she did, but just as a general question, like, hey, what would you do if one of your kids is raping the other? Would they just take that one child away? And the cops said no. They would both get taken away until CPS could sort it out. And Mitchelle's thinking like, damn, my son been through enough. I'm not going to put him in a foster home where this type of shit can possibly happen to him again. Also, if these 2 kids were so calculating that this was happening for years and she never knew about it, who's to say they wouldn't have tricked CPS too? Basically, she felt there was nothing else she could do besides be her own judge and jury. Another thing, why didn't Stephen say anything if he was getting raped by his sister as well? Apparently, after Stoney admitted to abusing the baby, she also admitted to being the one to take food to Stephen, so Mitchelle couldn't see the beating she was giving Stephen when threatening him not to say anything. So where the hell are the dads in this whole equation? Good question.
She was very protective of her kids, of all kids, not just her kids. This was like her 3rd or 4th phone call that day that I seen, and he was drunk and he wouldn't bring them nothing to eat, and she was crying because she didn't have a way to the soup kitchen to go pick them up some food or no money to buy them no food. So we got them food. And I took her to the soup kitchen to get them food.
They said whenever they tried to see their kids, Mitchelle gave them some kind of excuse of why they couldn't.
It's all my fault. It's all my fault. Yes, it is.
But taking a deeper look, both of these men had criminal records, owed thousands in child support, were deadbeats, and couldn't support a child even if they wanted to.
And I'm like, so you realize they not dead, they alive, right? That's what I always used to say to him. Everybody could be dead, you wouldn't even know it. That's kind of ironic in light of what happened, but that's what I always said. You don't know what's going on with nobody over here.
I had to beg you to come see me. For real?
Mother, listen to
No
me.
matter how much you lie or how your lawyers lie.
You done, Mother? Listen to me. This is a civil case. It's not a criminal case. We can and we will do it without you.
I never
We
tried to
will
say I
do it
didn't. I
without
did
you.
it, but that does not negate the fact that they were never there for their children. I had to struggle with them all the time. They were never there.
You get your
Stephen,
chance.
you know we had to beg you. Me, Stephen, all of us used to cry for you.
You're not going to be able to
I'm
stay,
good.
Mother.
Come here.
There are rules.
In 2015, Mitchelle was charged with 11 counts of murder, child abuse, and child abuse while other children were present. She pleaded guilty to first-degree premeditated murder, life in prison without parole.
Nothing further.
I have a question. To my understanding, to get a trial is to get to the truth, right? I'm already saying that I did it. I'm freely giving myself and accepting life in prison. My son is worth that to me. So what I don't understand is, from what I heard today, why the prosecutors are dragging their feet. If I'm already giving myself to you, like, hey, I did this, what's the problem? You get what I'm saying? I'm not gonna come back like, oh, I didn't understand my rights. I'm not a coward. You get what I'm saying? All I know is this, my son is 8 years old right now. He's gonna forget a lot about me, okay? When he look back at all this media coverage from these bottom feeders, I don't want him to see that I stood here like a coward. I did what I did, and I did what I did for my baby, period. And he gonna see me standing up, taking my responsibility. I will happily do life in prison for my child, that's period.
Some wonder in reality if the kids even really abused each other, but she speaks with such confidence, it's hard to rule it out. Logically, it would be hard to tell if children were sexually abusing each other. But for a child that small to speak about such evil acts, it really puts things in perspective for me. And I personally do believe they were abusing him. Every time she spoke about those events from day one to the very end, her story stayed exactly the same.
I went back upstairs and started punching Stephen till he said he would tell the truth. How long has Stephen been in the freezer? I want to say 2 years. How long has Stoney been in the freezer? About 1 year. She died May 25th, but I don't remember the year. The confession was signed Mitchelle Blair at 6:51 p.m., about 8 hours after her arrest on March 24th.
My take on it is this can go one of two ways. Either the baby was telling the truth, or he could have remembered the stories that Mitchelle told him, especially about how she used to claw her face as she stated that he did, and how she was abused. So when his older siblings picked on him, hopefully harmless, he would make up these stories to his mom, remembering that those kind of stories made her angry. Young kids can be very sneaky and link two and two together, but not actually realize the consequences. But as I said earlier, Stoney straight up admitted everything to Mitchelle. Either way, children should never know every detail of situations that horrible because they're too young to understand. It's really devastating when a child is sexually abused and a parent doesn't believe them or doesn't do anything about it. I mean, look at this woman. This is what a child can grow up to be when they are abandoned after a traumatic event.
Everybody want to know, yes, I did kill her.
A mother should look after a child and shelter them from all evil. But when you fail to do your job, the pain is lifelong and never goes away. So don't ignore your kids, don't be a deadbeat dad, and don't put anything other than food in the freezer, because sometimes it be like that. Till next time, I'm Beezy. Thank you for watching.